Now we are back once again with the Brooklyn Bots, a team that is full of zero overall players, and the last time we saw the Brooklyn Bots, they were constructed by Google Gemini. Well, today this team is going to be built by Google Gemini once again. However, the Brooklyn Bots are going to be going against somebody, and who is that? The Portland Plugs, a team that is going to be built by ChatGPT. So we are going to have these two AI bots going at it. Which one can build the best NHL team? Now in my last video where I had Google Gemini involved, I gave them the first overall pick. So it only seems right that in this simulation, ChatGPT is going to be getting the first overall pick. So without further ado, let's go figure out who that first selection is going to be. So I've gone ahead and loaded up the prompt in ChatGPT, and this is what we're looking at. This is about to be the biggest challenge you have ever faced. You will be taking on Google Gemini in a race to win the Stanley Cup. Both you and Google Gemini will select 12 forwards, 6 defensemen, 2 goalies, and 5 extra players. Of course, the 5 extra players are just in case both of these teams build a super team, and somehow after adding all 20 players, they haven't won a Stanley Cup, then they might need to add some more players. All players selected must be active players in the NHL. We will alternate draft selections between you and Google Gemini. You will have the first overall pick. Who do you want to select? So ChatGPT, you are about to make your first selection. Now, who are you going to bring to the team? Let's find out. With the first overall pick, they're going with Connor McDavid. That is a player that everybody expected to go first overall. So I've already told Google Gemini what we're doing here. So I'm going to let them know that ChatGPT is going to be going with Connor McDavid. He is going to be their first selection. Now, when it comes to Google Gemini, I can only imagine they're going with Nathan MacKinnon. That's not the case. They want to bring in a superstar defenseman. They're selecting Cale Makar. You know what? I don't hate that selection, because in my eyes, if you're going to select Cale Makar here, ideally with your next selection, you also go with Quinn Hughes, and then you can have a defense consisting of Quinn Hughes and Cale Makar. But if you do that, that means ChatGPT is going to be having Connor McDavid and Nathan MacKinnon. So I think you could be in a lot of trouble if that happens. But you know what? We can't worry about future selections. We can only worry about this one right now. Okay, this might be the craziest thing I've seen from Google Gemini, but I'm just going to let them cook. If this is what they want to do, go ahead. These are the head coach preferred lines. They want Cale Makar to be their second line centerman, not their first line centerman, their second line centerman. Like, I fully expected him to be playing forward minutes, but on the second line, that is incredibly disrespectful. Meanwhile, the Portland Plugs, Connor McDavid's going to be playing first line minutes for them. This is exactly what I expected. McDavid getting first line minutes, Cale Makar on the second line. No, that's crazy work. So what we're going to do is simulate up to our first matchup between these two teams. We are going to be stopping in on November 8th to see these two teams match up, and we're going to see what they're going to be able to do against each other. Of course, McDavid's going to pick up 8 million points in that game. Cale Makar should probably do the same, but it's certainly going to be an interesting game to watch. Now, up until this point, neither team has won a game, and neither team has scored a goal. Neither team has probably taken a shot at this point. So we're finally going to see somebody score a goal here, and who is it going to be? Well, Cale Makar's picking up 2 goals in the first period to Connor McDavid's 1. Moving into the second, they're going to be exchanging goals. There is no way second line player Cale Makar is about to beat first line player Connor McDavid. No, that is crazy work right there. Cale Makar on the second line is taking down Connor McDavid. Google Gemini, I might have been sleeping on you. Maybe I was incorrect in your ability to build the team. I thought Cale Makar on the second line was one of the stupidest things I've ever seen, but you guys just won 4-2. So maybe you guys know a thing or two that I didn't know. Also, since neither of these teams are going to be competitive this season, like the only games they're going to be winning are the games in which they play each other. We're not going to bother simulating the rest of the season. We're probably not going to simulate a full season until each team is at least 15 players, because up until then, neither team's going to be competing for anything other than the first overall pick. So I'm going to go ahead and let ChatGPT know that Gemini selected Cale Makar, so it's up to their next selection. Who are they going to go with? Nathan MacKinnon. Right now, I'm on the GPT bandwagon. I think they're building the better team here. But you know what? We're incredibly early on. Anything can happen in the future. Now, Google Gemini, we're going to see if your plan works out here. Are you going to select Quinn Hughes? You could take the 2 best defensemen off the board, and what are they going to do? They're going to go with Vasilevsky instead. I don't know how I feel about that. I don't know. I just feel like you are not making the right selections right now. Vasilevsky, yes, he's an amazing goaltender, but by making that selection, you are leaving Quinn Hughes on the board. So it's going to be Connor McDavid, Nathan MacKinnon, and likely Quinn Hughes all on the same team together. Now, I think Google Gemini might be folding. Now, I don't want to make it seem like the first 2 selections for the Brooklyn Bots were complete misses. Like, at the end of the day, they selected Cale Makar and they got Vasilevsky. So those are 2 amazing players right there. However, the only problem is you allowed the Portland Plugs to select Connor McDavid and Nathan MacKinnon. And likely with their next selection, they're going to go with Quinn Hughes. They're going to have the greatest big 3 of all time. I just don't know if you're going to be able to beat that in the future. But we can't worry about the future too much because things can change incredibly quick, especially in a video like this. So the main question heading into this matchup, is Vasilevsky actually going to be in the pipes? Well, it looks like he is, but that doesn't matter. Nathan MacKinnon and Connor McDavid are picking up 2 goals on Vasilevsky. Moving into the second, this is crazy work. Y'all added Vasilevsky to your team. The point in adding Vasilevsky was to basically guarantee you a win against the Plugs because they don't have a goaltender. Having Vasilevsky should save your team, but that's not quite the case. Connor McDavid and Nathan MacKinnon are going to beat Vasilevsky and Cale Makar. This is one of the craziest outcomes I have ever seen. When I found out the bots were adding Vasilevsky to the team, I thought it was a guaranteed win for them because I'm like, outside Connor McDavid and Nathan MacKinnon, that team is not going to be able to score any goals. At least some of the 0 overalls on the bots might be able to score on a 0 overall goaltender, but I guess that's not the case. The Plugs are taking down the bots. This is one of the most ridiculous things I've ever seen. The most ridiculous thing I've ever seen is you not subscribing to the channel because clearly you're enjoying the content because you're still watching right now. So why don't you hit that subscribe button down below? You should do that. Now, ChatGPT, I am not going to tell you who to select here. I'm just going to tell you that Gemini went with Vasilevsky. From there, you make your own decision. You're going with Austin Matthews. Okay, I don't think that's the right move there. Austin Matthews is definitely not the right decision. There are better options out there. Granted, a first line of Connor McDavid, Nathan MacKinnon, and Austin Matthews is scary, but y'all should have went with a defenseman there. So Google Gemini, you have the opportunity to build the best defense possible. You can pick Quinn Hughes here, and then you'll have your top 2 guys. Quinn Hughes is the right selection here. Go with Quinn Hughes. You can take him away from ChatGPT, but you're going to go with Kucherov instead. I mean, I can't really hate that selection. Like, technically, you didn't have a forward yet, so going with Nikita Kucherov does make sense for you. However, I think if you secured a guy like Quinn Hughes, that would have made your defense incredibly elite, especially since ChatGPT wouldn't be able to compete with that. But you know what? You got a 96 overall in Nikita Kucherov, so it can't really be that bad of a selection. So it looks like Google Gemini figured out that maybe Cale Makar should play on the top line. So him and Kucherov are going to be manning that first line together this season. When it comes to goaltending, they still have Vasilevsky. However, Vasilevsky could be in a little bit of trouble because look at this line right here. Okay, Austin Matthews, if they want you to play on the second line, that's where you're going to play. Like me personally, I would do lines like this, like completely load up the first line. But I didn't move Cale Makar up to the first line in that first season. And because I didn't do that, I can't move Austin Matthews up to the first line here. So these are the lines you're going to be running. Some very questionable lines to say the least. Like, y'all could have a super line, one of the greatest lines in hockey, but instead you're like, nah, I want Connor McDavid and Nathan MacKinnon playing alongside a 0 overall because that makes a lot more sense for us. Now, I guess we're never going to figure out how good those line combinations could have been because the game's going to be crashing 6 games in, so it's time for us to move on to our next selection. Now, there's just something about NHL 26 crashing in season mode. It wouldn't be the same without it crashing at least once. Victor Hedman. You went with Victor Hedman. Why would you do that? Quinn Hughes is available. Like, no disrespect to Victor Hedman, but he's not Quinn Hughes. Now, Gemini, you are being thrown the biggest lob in history. Take Quinn Hughes. Select Quinn Hughes and you'll have the greatest defense imaginable here. And they're going to go with Leon Draisaitl instead. You know what? I can't hate on that. You do need more offensive help, so going with Leon Draisaitl does make a lot of sense. But we're 8 selections in, and Quinn Hughes is still on the board. What are we doing here? Now, Leon Draisaitl really isn't that bad of a selection for the bots, but I just can't believe the Plugs decide to go with Victor Hedman. Like, I'm not trying to disrespect Victor Hedman. He's a great defenseman and all, but Quinn Hughes is on the board. You don't take Victor Hedman over Quinn Hughes. You just don't do that. Anyways, let's not overthink it too much. We're heading into our first matchup between these 2 teams. We got the bots taking on the Plugs. Who's going to come out on top in this one? Well, it looks like the bots are taking over, and that is all because of Leon Draisaitl. He has a first period hat trick. He's doubling down the second period, picking up another goal. Nah, this is an absolute blowout. 8 goals for the bots. Nah, the Plugs better figure something out here. Like, keep in mind, the Plugs could have selected Leon Draisaitl, the man who had 4 goals against them, but instead they went with Victor Hedman. Yeah, so I don't know about that selection. So ChatGPT, you have the opportunity to go with another defenseman. That defenseman would be Quinn Hughes. Are you going to pass up on Quinn Hughes for a forward or maybe even a goaltender? It looks like they're going with Igor Shesterkin. They do need a goaltender, so I don't really hate that selection so much, but there's just no way Quinn Hughes isn't selected with the 10th overall pick. So Google Gemini, you have the opportunity to do it. You can bring in Quinn Hughes here. I am amazed that he is still available at the 10th overall pick. Will you select him? We're about to find out. They're going to go with Barkov. He went outside the top 10. Quinn Hughes is being selected outside of the top 10. What are we doing here? Like, am I bugging? Did I just miss Quinn Hughes or something? Nope, I did not miss Quinn Hughes. Austin Matthews was selected before him. Victor Hedman was selected before him. Shesterkin and Vasilevsky were selected before him. Quinn Hughes, heading into the 11th overall pick, is still on the board. He is arguably the best defenseman in the NHL, and he still hasn't been selected heading into pick 11. Now I just want to say, none of these players selected before Quinn Hughes are terrible players. All of these guys are amazing players in their own right. However, it's Quinn Hughes. I just feel like he should have gone before the 11th overall pick. Like, I feel like just not enough respect is being put on his name right now. Quinn Hughes still available for selection. I'm starting to wonder if Google Gemini and ChatGPT forgot about him. So we have another matchup between these two teams. The bots taking on the plugs. Who's going to come out on top this time? In our last matchup, the bots absolutely dominated. Let's see if that's going to happen again, and it looks like it is. For some reason, the plugs just have no answer. It is domination from the bots right now. They're taking this one 4-2. The plugs are going to have the next selection, and they will have an opportunity to bring in Quinn Hughes. But are they going to select him? Probably not. At this point, I'm convinced he's going to drop to like the 20th overall pick. So with the 10th overall pick, we saw Gemini select Barkov. Now, when it comes to the 11th overall, who are we going to be looking at? Miro Heiskanen. We're getting disrespectful. Miro Heiskanen, great defenseman. He's not Quinn Hughes. Just plain and simple. Now, Google Gemini, I'm going to let you know right here. ChatGPT is going with Miro Heiskanen, meaning Quinn Hughes is still on the board. If you want to go with a defenseman, you can go with Quinn Hughes. Now, who are you going to select? They're going to go with David Pastrnak. This man dropped outside the top 12. He really dropped outside the top 12. I can't believe it. At this point, I'm actually fully convinced Quinn Hughes isn't going to be selected. Now I had to step in and make some executive decisions. Austin Matthews, I'm done with you playing on the second line. You were brought in to be a first line player. You are now playing first line minutes. And then when it comes to the bots, we had to change up their lines a little bit as well. Cale Makar, you're finally playing some defensive minutes. We have a complete forward line here. Like, I don't need Cale Makar playing right wing minutes anymore. I understood that at the very beginning of this video when there's basically no forwards on this team, but we have 4 forwards now. You can start playing some defensive minutes. Now, it looks like so far both teams have actually been able to win a game, and they've been able to beat some NHL teams. Now, in the first game of the season, the bots are taking down the Nashville Predators in a 3-2 shootout win. Now, when it comes to Portland, well, they're going to be beating the Edmonton Oilers 3-2 in the second game of the season. So both these teams have won some games early on. Obviously, that's not going to continue, and they're not going to win a Stanley Cup this season, but it's good to see that they're finally beating some NHL teams. Now let's see how they do when they go against each other. Moving into the first period, it looks like Nathan McKinnon and Iki Tenryo are picking up goals, so one of the 0 overalls is scoring. I wasn't really expecting that. Moving into the second, though, it's all bots. They're going to be picking up 4 straight goals before Connor McDavid would respond. It's a 4-3 game entering the third, and in the third period, we're going to see some more goal scoring. David Pastrnak is absolutely dominating a third period hat trick. He had some goals earlier in this game. No, did he have a double hat trick? He actually might have had a double hat trick here. Never mind, he didn't have a double hat trick. He just had 5 goals. A disappointing performance from him. So you know what? Maybe I should stop questioning Google Gemini. Like, they brought in David Pastrnak when I would have went with Quinn Hughes. But David Pastrnak then proceeded to pick up 5 goals. So maybe they're on to something. So maybe I was just sleeping on David Pastrnak. Maybe he was the right pick in that situation, because so far he's looking pretty good. With the 13th overall, Sidney Crosby is going to be selected for ChatGPT. Sidney Crosby is certainly a great player. He's still high overall, so I think that selection could be significantly worse. Now with ChatGPT going with Sidney Crosby, I do want to emphasize here, it is possible that we can still get Quinn Hughes and Cale Makar on the same team, because back in the first round, Google Gemini went with Cale Makar. Since then, Quinn Hughes has not been selected, so it's still possible for those two guys to play alongside each other. And is that going to be the case? Well, it looks like it is. Quinn Hughes is finally being selected. I have no clue how he fell this far in the draft. Being selected 14th overall is a little bit disrespectful, but now Quinn Hughes and Cale Makar playing alongside each other, that's going to be a very difficult tandem to stop. Now you might be be wondering, which team do I like more so far? Well, the Plugs have a pretty solid forward core. Connor McDavid, Nathan MacKinnon, Austin Matthews, that's an elite first line. However, let's not sleep on this first line. Dave Pastrnak, Leon Draisaitl, Nikita Kucherov, and they have Barkov as well. This is a really solid first line as well. So I think the first lines kind of even each other out. When it comes to the defense though, Quinn Hughes and Cale Makar. Do I really have to say more? And on top of those two guys right there, they even have Vasilevsky behind them. Yeah, I think the Bots have to be the favorite right now. Although they don't have Connor McDavid or Nathan MacKinnon, every other aspect of their team I think is slightly better than the Plugs. However, at the end of the day, if you want to win a Stanley Cup, you're going to need to show up when the lights are the brightest, and you're going to have to win all the important games. So I guess it's really going to depend on who steps up when they have to. Now, so far, the Bots haven't won a game, but you know what? They've been stepping up in every big-time game against the Plugs. So even if they can't beat NHL teams, they can certainly beat the Plugs. In the first period, it looks like we're going to have ourselves a scoreless one. Moving into the second, Nathan MacKinnon's going to be getting the Portland Plugs on the board. Can they find a way to shut the Bots down in this game? It looks like it. Nikita Kucherov would pick up one goal, but that one goal is not going to mean too much because a 0 overall player is going to end up picking up the game winner. I mean, technically his goal was scored before Nikita Kucherov's, but his goal turned out to be the game-winning goal. Nah, who would have seen that coming? A 0 overall just picked up the game-winning goal. Was he one of the 3 stars of the game? It doesn't look like it. No, that's a little bit disrespectful. If you have a 0 overall scoring the eventual game-winning goal, you just have to make that man the first star of the game because of that. So it was another great game between two great teams, but this time the Plugs are going to be coming out on top. The Bots were on a little bit of a heater. They were winning a lot of games. When it comes to the 15th overall pick, it looks like ChatGPT is going to be going with Mitch Marner. Ideally, they're saying you slot him alongside Austin Matthews or Sidney Crosby. Well, we're certainly not going to put him alongside Austin Matthews because we've seen how that's worked over the past 10 years, but Marner alongside Sidney Crosby, it could be interesting. So Mitch Marner is definitely going to be a good addition for the Plugs. Now, when it comes to Google Gemini, who are they going to be going with? There's still a lot of amazing players left on the board, and it looks like they're going with Drew Doughty. Drew Doughty, out of all players, you want Drew Doughty. Like, we're not talking a prime Drew Doughty here. We are talking about 2025, 2026 Drew Doughty. You know what? I can't argue with the selection because I'm not allowed to argue with any of these selections. I just have to embrace who you're taking. Also, why are you giving me Mitch Marner's top 10 highlights? Like, why are you doing that? Like, I'm not interested in watching Mitch Marner's top 10 career highlights because if I did do that, then the NHL would copyright this video, and obviously we don't want that to happen. So yeah, Drew Doughty and Mitch Marner. I'm not overly surprised Marner got selected, but Drew Doughty, that is certainly a pickup. Alright, so before we move forward, 2 things need to be brought up before we head into this season. Number 1, everything recorded before this moment right here was before Quinn Hughes got traded. I was in the middle of recording this video right here. Quinn Hughes got traded. I dropped everything and immediately recorded a Minnesota Wild rebuild. Now the second thing is, while I was recording that Minnesota Wild rebuild, I have no clue what I did, but I clicked a button and all my audio settings changed, so hopefully the audio doesn't sound any different than it did before. I think I've got everything back to where it should be, but I think things are just slightly different. But you know what? We're not going to worry about that. The Bots are going to be taking on the Portland Plugs once again here. Each team has added another player. Let's see what they're going to do in their upcoming matchup. Now, so far, the Plugs are looking significantly better than the Bots. They've already won 2 games this season, including an overtime loss. So this game right here could really go either way. I do want to say, moving into this matchup, I do find it very strange that I was making the biggest deal about Quinn Hughes not being selected. And in this same video, Quinn Hughes gets traded to Minnesota halfway through the video. That is just very strange. There is no way I could have timed that better. Wow, neither of these teams know what defense is. 9-7 entering the third period. We just had a 12-9 game. 21 goals were scored in this game. Now, this was easily the greatest offensive game of all time. I want to look at some stats from this game. Nathan MacKinnon, 4 goals, 1 assist for 5 points. McDavid, 1 goal, 4 assists for 5 points. Did anyone have more points than those 2 guys right there? Did anyone have 6 points? It looks like Leon Draisaitl did. 3 goals, 3 assists for 6 points. Drew Doughty, 3 goals, 1 assist for 4 points. Quinn Hughes picking up 3 assists. Yeah, this was an offensive player's game. I guess we should also look at the goaltending numbers, because yeah, these are just looking terrible. Eric Hartman, 9 goals allowed on 30 shots. He also had 2 assists. Do want to point out the 2 assists that Eric Hartman had. Meanwhile, when it comes to Eric Hartman on the Portland Plugs, he's going to allow 12 goals on 28 shots. Nah, these boys were doing anything but keeping the puck out of the net. Now, since I had to take a little bit of break to record that Minnesota Wild rebuild, I'm just going to let ChatGPT know that we're still building our cup-winning teams. Gemini's last selection selection was Drew Doughty. So let's see who ChatGPT is going to be going with next. When it comes with their 17th overall pick, they're going to be selecting Roman Josi. He's going to be a really solid defenseman for them. Roman Josi, Victor Hedman, and Miro Heiskanen. I might have been questioning that defensive core a little bit, but honestly, I'm starting to buy into it now. So Google Gemini, who are you going to respond with? Who are you going to add to your team? Well, they're considering a handful of players, and who are they going to go with? Sam Reinhart. Sam Reinhart, definitely a great selection. He's going to be helping the forward core a ton. As much as I want to pick a favorite right now, I just don't know if that's going to be possible for me. Both of these teams are looking pretty solid in their own right. So each team's going to be receiving a solid upgrade. The Bots are going to be adding another elite player to their forward core in Sam Reinhart. Meanwhile, the Portland Plugs, they're going to upgrade the defense a little bit. Roman Josi is going to be joining Victor Hedman and Miro Heiskanen. 392 overalls right now. Not only do they have a really good defense right now, but they also have a great goaltender in Igor Shesterkin. However, at the end of the day, both of these teams still have 0 overall goaltenders, so I guess it really depends on who's going to be starting in their matchup. Now, I just want to remind everyone, in our last matchup, Eric Hartman played for both teams. So we had a 0 overall goaltender playing for both teams, and those goaltenders played the entire game. This time, however, it's Igor Shesterkin and Vasilevsky taking over, so I'm expecting we're going to see a fraction of the goals. Moving into the third period, each team's been able to pick up 2 goals so far, so it's going to be a very interesting finish. And you know what? It looks like we need overtime to finish this one. Cale Makar and Victor Hedman are exchanging goals in the third. Who's going to pot the OT winner? Well, it looks like it's going to be Sidney Crosby. He's going to be stepping up once again, and he's going to be allowing the Plugs to win this game. So the Plugs are going to be able to bounce back after that last 12-9 loss. I would say so far when it's come to the matchups between these two teams, it's 50-50. The Bots have won half of them, the Plugs have won half of them. It's been pretty fair so far. Neither team has really been able to separate themselves so far. So as I just mentioned, neither team has really been able to separate themselves, but maybe that's going to happen right here, because with the 19th overall pick, Mikko Rantanen is going to be joining the Plugs. Their forward core now consists of Connor McDavid, Nathan MacKinnon, Austin Matthews, Sidney Crosby, Mitch Marner, and Rantanen. No, that's going to be a pretty tough offense to stop. With that being said, we do have to remember who Gemini has on their defense. They have Quinn Hughes, and they have Cale Makar. They also have Drew Doughty, but yeah, he's not really like the other two. And you know what? It looks like they're going to continue to load up on their defense. Adam Fox is now going to be joining the team. They have Adam Fox, Quinn Hughes, Cale Makar, Drew Doughty. They're currently building one of the greatest defenses I've ever seen, and they're going to need it, especially if they want to shut down ChatGPT's offense. Now, you would think when a team has an offense this good, they would be the clear favorite. Like Nathan MacKinnon, Connor McDavid, Mikko Rantanen, Sidney Crosby, Mitch Marner, and Austin Matthews, all in the same top 6. Like, how on earth could you stop that? And then you look at the Bots defense. Quinn Hughes, Cale Makar, Adam Fox, Drew Doughty. As much as I like the Plugs offense, the Bots defense might just be better. But you know what? Only time will tell. Right now, the top 6s in the defense I think are pretty even. I think more than likely who's going to separate the Stanley Cup winner from the loser is going to be the bottom 6. Now, right now, the Bots defense has allowed them to win 2 more games than the Plugs. However, the Plugs are probably looking to score goals in this game, and that's exactly what they're doing. Nathan MacKinnon, Mikko Rantanen, and Heiskanen are picking up goals in the first period. Moving into the second, the Plugs would just keep on scoring goals. However, the Bots are waking up. They scored 4 straight goals before McDavid scored a late one. So we're heading into the third period in a 2-goal game. The Bots could potentially make the comeback in this one, and they tried to make the comeback. Sam Reinhart would pick up the lone goal in the third period. The Plugs are going to be taking down the Bots 6-5. The Plugs have now won back-to-back matchups here. However, they haven't dominated either of those games. Both of them have been very close finishes. So with those back-to-back victories, I guess that brings up the question, is ChatGPT separating themselves from Gemini? Like, 2 straight victories is actually pretty big for them. With the 21st overall pick, Brayden Point is now going to be joining ChatGPT. They do not care about defense. All they care about is offense, and right now they're building a pretty good offensive core. So with ChatGPT going with another forward, Gemini, are you going to respond with another defenseman, or are you going to pick up a forward of your own? Well, it looks like they're going to be going with a forward of their own, and that forward is going to be Matthew Tkachuk, a great power forward. Of course, we know what he's going to bring when it matters most. And with this selection right here, they're rounding out their forward core. Kucherov, Draisaitl, and Pasternak on the top line, Reinhart, Barkov, and Tkachuk on the second line. It looks like Gemini's looking to match ChatGPT's forward core. Okay, so I have no clue how it took me this long to notice this. We have just built the Florida Panthers on the second line. Matthew Tkachuk, Barkov, and Sam Reinhart. How on earth did it take me this long to realize that? I have no clue. I mean, granted, we did just bring Matthew Tkachuk to the team, so when we had these two guys, it was only 2 Florida Panthers, but now it's 3. So we're just building an improved Florida Panthers team at this point. Honestly, you can't really go against that though. They've made it to 3 straight Stanley Cup Finals, winning 2 of them. If you're going to replicate one team, the Florida Panthers are probably the team to replicate. Now, for some reason, neither team has seen a lot of success right now. Between these two teams, only 2 games have been won, and only 2 games have gone to overtime. Surprisingly, both of those wins and both of those overtime appearances have come from the bots. The Plugs are doing absolutely nothing this season, up until now, because they have scored 1 goal in this game. Apparently, it's just been a defensive masterclass between these two teams. I wasn't really expecting that, and it looks like the Plugs are going to find a way to win this one. They're going to shut out the bots 3-0, their 3rd straight victory. Nah, the bots got to figure it out here. Me personally, Google Gemini, I wouldn't let this happen. I would build a better team than ChatGPT. Nah, like seriously, imagine taking on an AI bot in a rebuilding challenge and not winning. Like me personally, I would never let that happen. Of course, I would destroy an AI bot. When it comes to the 23rd overall pick, ChatGPT is going to be going with Jack Eichel. If I remember correctly, last time I did this video, Jack Eichel fell very deep in the video. I think he ended up being selected in like the 18th round or something. So it looks like he's going to be selected a lot earlier this time, and he's going to be joining a fantastic forward core. So Google Gemini, you better figure it out pretty quick here. You can't afford to lose any more games. You've already lost 3 in a row. Are you going to lose 4? It doesn't look like it. It looks like Kirill Kaprizov is finally being selected. I completely forgot about Kaprizov. For some reason, I just completely forgot he hadn't been selected. I was making such a big deal about Quinn Hughes not getting selected, and then after he got selected, I completely forgot about Kirill Kaprizov. So yeah, I think that's an absolute steal in the 12th round for Google Gemini. Now, over the past couple selections, the Plugs have been mainly focused on getting their offensive firepower up, and they have certainly done that. And because of that, they've ended up winning 3 straight matchups. They're looking to make it 4. Now, the bots have finally figured out maybe they should try to counter that with their own offense, so they're going with 94 overall Kirill Kaprizov. Hopefully he can score some big goals for them. Him, Leon Draisaitl, and Kucherov on the top line should be able to do some pretty good things. Now, this might be the first time we actually simulate through the entire year, because as of right now, the Plugs actually have a winning record, a 7-6-2 record. They're actually not looking terrible this season. They're not looking good by any means, but they're not looking terrible. So let's see what they're going to be able to do in this game. Well, each team's picking up a goal in the first period, and both of the goals are going to be scored by a member of the Edmonton Oilers, Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl. Moving into the second, though, the bots are going to be picking up 2 big goals. Can they hold on to that lead entering the 3rd period? It looks like it, because they're going to pick up another 2 goals, and they're going to win this one 5-2. So I think moving forward, we're actually going to start simulating the entire season, because right now the bots have a 6-7-1 record. Meanwhile, the Plugs have a 7-7-2 record. I'm not expecting either of these teams to make the playoffs this season. However, they might not be the worst team in the entire league moving forward. Now, even though both teams had a pretty hot start to the season, it just wasn't sustainable. The Brooklyn Bots are going to be dead last in the entire league. Meanwhile, the Portland Plugs, they're going to be winning an additional 3 games this season. I do want to point out, the Bots definitely had a better offense, but at the end of the day, the Portland Plugs had a better defense. Honestly, that's a little bit surprising. I kind of thought this would be flipped. I was thinking the Portland Plugs would have the better offense, and then the Brooklyn Bots would have the better defense, but apparently it's the other way around. That is very surprising. You're telling me a team that has Quinn Hughes and Cale Makar as their top pairing has a worse defense than the Plugs team. You know what? I'm not going to question it too much. This is what the Brooklyn Bots scoring is looking like this season. Moving on over to the Portland Plugs. Who's going to be the top scorer for them? Well, I don't think it's too much of a surprise. It's Nathan McKinnon, followed by Mikko Rantanen and Connor McDavid. They ended up having 4-point-a-game scores if you include Sidney Crosby there. So their offense was definitely flying. Now, when it comes to our Stanley Cup winner, that's going to be the Edmonton Oilers. They're taking down the Washington Capitals. I had high hopes for both of these teams after their matchup early in the season, but am I really surprised it wasn't sustainable? Not really. So it's time for us to move on to our next selection. ChatGPT, who are you going to be going with next? Kirill Kaprizov is the last pickup. They're really thinking about who they want to go with, and it looks like they're going to go with Artemi Panarin, another great forward for them. But they do need some defense. The forward core is looking pretty solid for them right now, but I think you should try to pick up another defenseman. But maybe they know something I don't. Maybe their belief is offense is going to win us the Stanley Cup. We're just going to outscore our problems. So Google Gemini, how are you going to react to that pickup? Who are you going to go with? Well, it looks like Google Gemini is going with Ryan O'Reilly. You're kidding me. I love Ryan O'Reilly. I think he's a great player. A stick on the ice legend and a St. Louis Blue legend. But you don't go with Ryan O'Reilly over Jack Hughes. Like, Jack Hughes is still on the board. I'm sorry, that is not the right pickup in that situation. Nah, Gemini is selling. Like, I'm sorry, but I just need to highlight this pickup. You are going to go with Ryan O'Reilly. That's my guy. Nothing but love for Ryan O'Reilly. He's an 85 overall. Let's take a look at some of the players you passed up on. So you passed up on Jack Hughes, who is a 93 overall. I know you brought him in for his defensive abilities, but that's just not the right move. Now, with the way these two teams are progressing right now, I think we're going to start simulating to the end of the year, because I do think there is a possibility one of these teams right here that is constructed by AI might not be the worst team in the entire league. Like, each team is still missing 7 NHL players, but based on how many games they won last season, and with both of them adding an additional player to the team, I do think it is possible one of them isn't the worst team in the entire league. Also, before you comment, yes, I understand that technically one of these teams isn't the worst in the entire league, because one AI team has to be ahead of the other. Basically, what I mean by worst in the entire league is being below every NHL team. I want to see if it's possible for one of our AI teams to be above an actual NHL team that is full of NHL players and isn't just built through AI. Alright, so last season gave me way too much faith with this team. Before we go look at how our teams did, the Detroit Red Wings, who were 8th in the entire league with a 47-30-5 record, missed the postseason. Now that's crazy right there. Meanwhile, when it comes to our two AI teams, both of them were terrible this season. 19 wins from the Plugs, 17 wins from the Bots. Yeah, last season was an absolute fluke from both of these teams, so maybe we should just go back to watching the one matchup between these two teams, because it actually is going to be a while before they're competitive. So I think what we'll actually do is we'll wait until both teams have at least 15 players, and once they have 15 players, then we'll start simulating the entire season. Until then, we will have these guys play against each other, and when it comes to ChatGPT's next selection, it looks like they're finally bringing in a backup goaltender. UC Saros is going to be the guy. That alone is going to add an additional 5 wins to the team. So Google Gemini, are you going to elect to complete your goaltending core as well? Or are you going to go with another forward or another defenseman? Well, it looks like they're going to go with a defenseman, and that defenseman is going to be Charlie McAvoy. So their defensive core is just about complete. All they have to do is bring one more D-man to the team. I do want to point out, Connor Hellebuyck is still on the board, and he is the highest rated goaltender in NHL 26. So yeah, Google Gemini, going with Charlie McAvoy, that's actually probably the right selection, because you don't have to worry about ChatGPT going with Connor Hellebuyck. Now, I actually didn't realize how many players each team had, but after this matchup right here, each team is going to have at least 15 NHL players on their team, so this is going to be the final matchup we jump into between the Plugs and the Brooklyn Bots, or at least until these two teams meet in the Stanley Cup Final. Then, of course, we'll jump into those matchups as well. Now, although the Brooklyn Bots have an 8-5 record, I know that's not going to be sustainable for them. There's just far too many 0 overalls on the team, and they still have a 0 overall backup goaltender, and that's going to hurt them eventually. But moving into this matchup right here, it's Vasilevsky versus UC Saros. Nikita Kucherov and Roman Josi are exchanging goals in the first period. Moving into the second period, this one's going to be all Brooklyn. 6 goals from them. 3 of them coming from Nikita Kucherov. Not only did he have a second period hat trick, but he actually picked up his 4th goal of the game during the second. He is absolutely dominating. They're going to finish this one out with one more goal. Leon Draisaitl is picking up a hat trick himself. Nathan McKinnon and Mikko Rantanen, your goals don't really mean anything. This is going to be an 8-4 victory for the Brooklyn Bots, a dominant performance from them. Because of this win right here, I actually will simulate the rest of the season, just in case the Brooklyn Bots actually finish above an NHL team, because right now they have a 9-5 record, and that's certainly not terrible by any means. Okay, never mind, we're actually not going to simulate the rest of the season because Brooklyn has basically lost every game since they beat the Plugs. So yeah, let's go add some players. So after these 2 new additions for both of these teams, they're going to have 15 NHL players, and I'm expecting they're going to become fringe wildcard teams. ChatGPT is going to be going with Evan Bouchard. I don't think that's the right call. I would not go with Evan Bouchard here. In my opinion, there is a handful of way better options out there, like Zach Werenski. Zach Werenski is still an option, but you're going with Evan Bouchard instead. Respectfully, that's not the right move. So with that being said, Google Gemini, you can complete your defensive core right here if you want to bring Zach Werenski to the team, but instead it looks like you're going to be going with Mark Stone. You're going to try to build out your forward core a little bit more. I can't really hate that too much. You've almost completed your defensive core. You definitely could use a bit more help on the bottom 6, and Mark Stone would definitely be a solid addition to your bottom 6. So each team officially has 15 NHL players. Now what can I say? Some of the selections have been very interesting, like Drew Doughty, Ryan O'Reilly, Evan Bouchard. There's been a handful of guys that have been very surprising selections. Even Quinn Hughes going as late as he did, that was actually a pretty big surprise as well. Right now, I would say the Plugs have the better offense, but you know what? The Bots have the better defense, so they're pretty evenly matched right now. So when it comes to who's going to be winning the Stanley Cup first, honestly, I think it's just going to depend on who gets hottest at the right time. So with each team having 15 players, we're going to simulate right to the end of the season, and I guess we'll find out whether it's possible for either of these teams to make the playoffs. Now, I actually have some good news for not only the Bots, but the Plugs as well. Neither of you guys were the worst team in the entire league. The Brooklyn Bots finished 29th with a 36-41-5 record, but the Portland Plugs, nah, they were actually pretty solid this season. 22nd in the entire league, a 39-36-7 record. You never know. The Portland Plugs might be winning a Stanley Cup before the Brooklyn Bots even make the postseason. Now, that would be crazy work right there. We're not really too worried about the leading scores for either of these teams. Kucherov is going to lead the way when it comes to the Bots. The LA Kings are Stanley Cup champions, but Brooklyn better figure it out pretty quick because right now the Plugs are rolling. So Brooklyn, no more mistakes with your selections. You need some stars. Now, Google Gemini, you can't tell me there isn't enough star players left. I know for a fact there is. ChatGPT is going to be picking up Jacob Slavin. He's going to be a really good defensive defenseman for them. He's definitely going to be helping the team a ton. And you never know, he might be the missing piece for this team, and they might even make the playoffs next season. So Gemini, your back's against the wall here. You need to find a superstar. You need somebody that's going to change the franchise or a backup goaltender. Why are you going with Tarasenko? He's not even on the Florida Panthers. No, that is a crazy pick right there. Vladimir Tarasenko. It's been a while since he's been on the Florida Panthers. What are we talking about here? Because Tarasenko played for Detroit last season, didn't he? He's played for 2 different organizations since he left Florida. ChatGPT, this might be the easiest victory you've ever seen. Like, I'm sorry, but I just have to emphasize this. These are all of the players that are higher overall than Vladimir Tarasenko right now. He is an 83 overall. Now, Google Gemini, you're not even taking this seriously, are you? I'm sorry, but this selection just makes no sense. Vladimir Tarasenko was selected before Jack Hughes. I just want to point that out. Vladimir Tarasenko was actually selected over a lot of players. He was selected over Robert Thomas. He was selected over Nick Suzuki. The list goes on. There are so many players Tarasenko was taken before. No, I don't know what the thought process there was. There clearly wasn't one. Like, I don't even care about the Portland Plugs right now. Brooklyn, what are you doing? Now wait just 1 minute. Maybe I was sleeping on Google Gemini, because what on earth just happened with the Brooklyn Bots? A 47-32-3 record. Vladimir Tarasenko, you might be the GOAT. I was disrespecting my king. I love Vladimir Tarasenko, St. Louis Blue legend. He's my second favorite St. Louis Blue of all time behind Robert Thomas. But I am well aware Vladimir Tarasenko is not the player he used to be in his prime on the St. Louis Blues. He's just not that guy anymore. Father Time has caught up to him. But how on earth did you just turn this team into one of the best in the entire league? All you did was pick up 6 goals this season. You had 6 goals and were minus 56, but apparently that doesn't matter because this team just locked in. The Brooklyn Bots are looking at a postseason berth here. The Portland Plugs are also looking at a postseason berth. Both of these teams made the postseason. I guess we're about to find out which is going to go on a deeper run. Nah, but I'm invested with the Brooklyn Bots right now. I want to see this team have success. I want to see them take down the New York Rangers and somehow win a Stanley Cup. They've split the series so far. We're moving into game number 5. They're dropping game 5. Can they somehow win game number 6 and stay alive? It doesn't look like that's going to be happening, so they're falling in 6 games. Meanwhile, in our other series, it looks like we're off to game 7. The Portland Plugs are forcing game 7. At one point, they were down 3-1 in the series, but they have fought their way back. Now they're looking to win one more game. Austin Matthews is picking up the first goal. Also, I guess I should say, with half of this video being recorded before Quinn Hughes got traded, that means it was also recorded before Stuart Skinner got traded. There has been 2 big trades that have happened in the last 24 hours, one of them being significantly bigger than the other. Quinn Hughes to Minnesota is obviously bigger than Stuart Skinner for Tristan Jarry, because honestly, that is the biggest nothing trade of all time. So yeah, I guess I'll just give my opinion on that trade while we're here. You trade Stuart Skinner and a 2nd round pick for Tristan Jarry, who in reality isn't that much better than Stuart Skinner. Tristan Jarry is better than Stuart Skinner, but he's not going to make that much of a difference. Okay, this team is rolling. Hold on. They're 8-3 and they just made it to the conference finals. They're taking on the Minnesota Wild. Minnesota is definitely going to be a tough task here, but with the way this team is rolling right now, I don't know if anyone's going to be able to stop them. Game number 5 is going to be a big one. Minnesota's going to find a way to win that one. Can Portland win game 6 and somehow force game 7? It looks like it. But yeah, basically the moral of the story, Tristan Jarry is not a big enough upgrade where it's worthwhile giving up a second round pick. I don't know what Stan Bowman was cooking, but moving into game 7, Marco Rossi's picking up the first goal. Also, I guess this is another perfect time to mention, we're still rocking the rosters before the trade because obviously EA hasn't updated the rosters. So Marco Rossi scoring a goal for Minnesota, that is very funny. You know what? This has just been a very strange video. Quinn Hughes dropping as much as he did when it came to our draft. Stuart Skinner being traded for Tristan Jarry, and then Quinn Hughes being traded for Marco Rossi, who is on pace for picking up a hat trick in this one. And did he do that? It doesn't look like it. But the Minnesota Wild are making it to the Stanley Cup Final. The Portland Plugs are falling in the conference finals. And I just want to remind y'all, they still have 4-0 overalls on the team. Yeah, the Portland Plugs are certainly the favorite moving forward. But yeah, since the beginning of recording this video, Buffalo just won the Stanley Cup, so there is that. Stuart Skinner being traded for Tristan Jarry, Quinn Hughes being traded to Minnesota, and Buffalo winning a Stanley Cup. Quite a lot has been happening in this video. Now, I guess it wouldn't hurt if we took a look at our scorers. Nathan McKinnon, Mikko Rantanen, Austin Matthews, you were the big time performers. When it comes to goaltending, Igor Shesterkin, you were a superstar. A 938 and a 224. Considering you guys made it all the way to the conference finals, I really shouldn't be surprised at these numbers. Now, when it comes to the Brooklyn Bots, they're not doing too much. Vasilevsky did post a 949 to 185 though. Okay, Brooklyn just decided, no, we're not scoring goals. That's why y'all lost. So after witnessing that deep run from the Plugs, I'm going to let them know that Vladimir Tarasenko was selected. They're probably going to be surprised at that, and they're going to respond with Jason Robertson. Definitely a guy I would have selected over Vladimir Tarasenko at this point in time. Some of y'all don't know about a prime Vladimir Tarasenko though, because there was a point in time where he was one of the best goal scorers in the NHL. Now I'm really starting to sound like an old head. Like I'm telling you about a time where Vladimir Tarasenko was an elite goal scorer. For a second, I thought they went with Jonathan Toews. No, they're going with Devon Toews instead. No, that would have been crazy if they went with Jonathan Toews there. Devon Toews, welcome to the Brooklyn Bots. The defensive core for Google Gemini is now complete. They just need 2 more forwards and a goaltender. But yeah, I'm really turning into an old head. Back in my day, Tarasenko was a superstar. Now he's a washed king. You hate to see it. Now I know I've been gassing up the Plugs for a long time now, but I think it might be the Brooklyn Bots' time to take over because they have a complete defensive core, and when it comes to season simulations in this game, having a complete defensive core means quite a bit. Meanwhile, when it comes to the Portland Plugs, they don't have a complete defensive core yet. They still have 1-0 overall here, and I think that could be the thing that holds them back and prevents them from winning a Stanley Cup. But at the end of the day, what do I know? This could really go either way still. Each team is incredibly talented. As I mentioned before, whoever gets hottest at the right time, that's who's going to be taking home the cup. Now, I guess those 0 overalls on the Brooklyn Bots are actually going to be hurting them more than expected because they're finishing 9th in the entire league. Meanwhile, the Portland Plugs, they're continuing to build off the postseason run they saw last season. 7th in the entire league, a 46-30-6 record. These two teams were only separated by 2 wins, so they're still incredibly close. Connor McDavid, 102 points. Artemi Panarin, 91 points. Nathan McKinnon, 89 points. That's going to be 4-point-a-game scores for the Portland Plugs. Now, when it comes to the Brooklyn Bots, did they have 4-point-a-game scores? I guess we'll find out. And it looks like they actually had 5-point-a-game scores. 5-point-a-game scores for the Brooklyn Bots. They're just trying to prove that they are slightly better than those Plugs. Meanwhile, Vasilevsky, 43 wins, 2 shots, a 908 and a 302. That is something we should remember. Right now, the Bots only have 1 goaltender. So that's certainly one thing that's holding them back because Ricky Lafleur, he can't win any games. Meanwhile, when it comes to the Plugs, they do have 2 goaltenders, Igor Shesterkin and UC Saros, and having those 2 guys is definitely leading to lots of success. However, once the postseason comes around, you only need 1 goaltender, so I guess we'll see who can make the deeper push this time. So we'll start by following the Portland Plugs. They went on the deeper postseason run last season, so we're going to trust them to go on another deep postseason run. Now, through the first 4 games, they've been able to split the series with the Anaheim Ducks. Moving into game number 5, it's a must win for them, and that's exactly what they're doing. Can they close there in game game number 6 and move on to the second round? Yes, they can. Meanwhile, when it comes to the Brooklyn Bots, a clean sweep over the Penguins, they're not messing around here. So I guess we'll actually follow the Brooklyn Bots in this series. They're coming off a sweep over the Pittsburgh Penguins. Can they keep the momentum going? Well, they won game number 1, and then they lost 3 straight games after that. Maybe I shouldn't have been paying attention to the Brooklyn Bots, because the second I started doing that, they didn't see any success whatsoever. However, they have forced game 7, and game 7 can be very interesting. So let's go ahead and dive into game 7. What are the Brooklyn Bots going to do here? Well, they're going to exchange goals in the first period with Washington. Moving into the second, Mordecai is scoring. Out of all players, 0 overall. Mordecai is picking up a big time goal. And is that goal going to be enough? It looks like it, because the Brooklyn Bots are going to pick up 2 more goals. They're off to the conference finals. But what's going on with the Plugs? Because the Plugs were also involved in a second round matchup. And when it comes to those Plugs, it looks like they're going to be falling to the Vegas Golden Knights in a 6-game series. So it all comes down to this run from the Brooklyn Bots. Can they walk away with a Stanley Cup here and complete the challenge? I guess we're going to find out. They're going to have to beat the Ottawa Senators first, and through the first 4 games, things aren't looking too bad. They've been able to split the series, so it's a best of 3 moving forward. Who can win game number 5, the most important game? Well, it looks like the Brooklyn Bots are taking that. So can they win back-to-back games and make it to the Stanley Cup Final? It looks like it. The Brooklyn Bots are going to be our first team making the Stanley Cup Final. They have a chance to end this video right now. All they have to do is beat the Vegas Golden Knights. And are they going to be able to do that? Well, they're going to do it in a sweep. The Portland Plugs couldn't beat the Vegas Golden Knights. The Brooklyn Bots swept them though, so they are clearly the better team. Google Gemini coming out on top once again, building the better team. That's why I trust Google Gemini over ChatGPT. They don't know anything about anything. Then again, I do want to remind everybody that Google Gemini went with Vladimir Tarasenko, and they told us Vladimir Tarasenko played for the Florida Panthers. So that should be remembered. Kirill Kaprizov, you were a superstar. 21 goals, 9 assists for 30 points. Nikita Kucherov, 12 goals, 17 assists for 29 points. Leon Draisaitl, 10 goals, 18 assists, 28 points. And you know what? We can't forget about what Matthew Tkachuk did. 28 points as well. These 4 guys are the reason that the Brooklyn Bots won a Stanley Cup. But you know who else helped the team a ton? Cale Makar and Quinn Hughes. This first pairing right here was a dominant force. Every NHL team that had to go against these 2 guys right here, they didn't know what to do. But of course, we have to highlight one man's numbers. And I'm not talking Mordecai, because he did pick up 1 goal. I'm talking Vladimir Tarasenko. 1 goal, 2 assists for 3 points, and one of his goals was a game winner. Without Vladimir Tarasenko, this doesn't happen. Meanwhile, Vasilevsky, 16 wins, 1 shutout, a 924 and a 243. The Brooklyn Bots and Google Gemini are Stanley Cup champions. ChatGPT and the Portland Plugs, well, they knew nothing about nothing. Those boys weren't able to do anything. So clearly we know which AI bot we can trust when it comes to building an NHL team. Neither of them. Like, we have Google Gemini telling me Vladimir Tarasenko plays for the Florida Panthers. We have ChatGPT refusing to draft Quinn Hughes, even though he was available for like 7 or 8 rounds. And instead of drafting Quinn Hughes, not only did they draft Victor Hedman over him, they drafted Miro Heiskanen over him. So when it comes to puck knowledge, don't be trusting these AI bots. They don't know anything.